Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam. Thanks for hanging out with me again today. And today, you guys finally get to see the finished globe liner truck and trailer that goes along with it. Now, we're going to kind of look at them in two parts and talk about them in two parts. First, we're going to look at the trailer, and then we're going to look at the truck. And while we have them up on the bench, I'm going to talk about both of them. But the reason we're doing it in two parts is there's not enough camera angle and working room to get both of them up here well at the same time. So first up, let's get the trailer up here. Here is the 99% finished trailer. Now it does not have lights on there yet. I'm still debating on getting the wireless light kit, but that's going to be a down the road thing. It's not going to be a right now thing. I could wire up lights and put a simple switch in there. But if I'm going to have to tear all that out to put wireless lights in there, I don't know if I want to. So if you guys don't know, the Beier unit that I put in the truck, it's the MSM1, and then there's also the SFR1. Kind of the same, kind of different. So the MSM1, it's pre-programmed. You just have different profiles to select through it, but it controls lights and sounds on the trucks, cars, boats, and I think a couple other things. It's crazy the amount of stuff that has programmed into it. But basically, truck number one is what we're running everything on. Now, with that, in the SFR1, you can actually program sounds into that, and it has a speed control built into it. A whole lot more money. I didn't need to program anything, so I went with the MSM1. But both of them have the capabilities of using a infrared sender and sensor that will connect a trailer light package. So you put the battery pack in, you put the little control module in underneath here, and a power switch somewhere so you can turn it on and off or just plug it in and it's on. But if you start the truck up and any inputs that you give to the truck, it wirelessly sends them to the trailer. The pickup on the end of the trailer sees that, and it immediately starts blinking the turn signals or putting the reverse lights on or whatever, brake lights, all that stuff. For right now, it's cool, but I just don't want to spend the money on it. Eventually down the road, probably will upgrade it. But what we did to this is, this was a Toucan Hobby or Hercules flatbed trailer. It's a clone of the Tamiya trailer, and they're very, 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 very similar. The differences between the two boils down to basically plastics. The plastics are a little bit different, and the decking that comes with the Toucan or Hercules isn't quite as good as the decking that comes with the Tamiya trailer. But for about $120 difference, really, is the decking that important? But I didn't need the decking. I didn't need the flat deck. I just needed the frame so I could build this. So it's the Toucan frame, wheels and tires, springs, all that stuff is the standard clone. From there, I cut some 3/8 square tubing that was 7 inches long. And from there, I got some round tubing, or round stock, that was 5 3/4, 6 inches long, something like that. And tapped the tubing, drilled up through here. There's a screw going up into the stock, making up the 4, cradles. And there's a few of them that are mounted in these stock locations, and then there was a few that I just had to drill holes down through the frame and mount those to it. Then I just came in with some diamond plate decking and put that down using the stock screws and using this to hold everything down. It's not glued or taped or anything, so I can take it up anytime. Just have to remove some screws and pop it up. These straps are actually, and I didn't mean to get neon greenish yellow. I actually intended on getting like this color yellow, so it looks more like the yellow straps. But seeing stuff online doesn't always work out well. These were just some Yankum straps, toe straps that I made for rock crawlers, and it's just regular shoelace, folded over ends, super glued them together, put some shrink wrap on there, left a little loop so you could put chains and stuff around them, tow your trucks out with. Then I got some elastic ones, and these are actually, they're clothing closure fasteners. They're bra hooks. That's basically what I've only ever seen them used for. But I got those on Amazon. They had like a small, medium, and large pack. The large ones are the ones I needed. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find them just by themselves large, so I keep having to buy small, medium, and large packs to get the large ones out of it. Neither here nor there. But basically, that's what it is. Real quick, I'll throw up some pictures. But there's the looped end, and then there's another looped end that comes in with like a third leg that acts like a tensioner. You cut that little tensioner leg out, and then you just pry out both of the little curved legs, and then I just put a little dab of, I just solder them together, just so it's a nice solid hook. Put the strap through, fold it over, put a little bit of super glue on there, pinch it together. Now with the super glue, it kind of wicks in, so what I found you had to do is basically fold it over, pinch it, fold it back over, put a little bit more super glue in there, and then pinch it. And then what I'll do is I'll hit it with some of the Instaset, just spray right on there, and it just wicks right into the fabric, and it'll create a nice bond. And you just come over with some shrink wrap, slide it over, heat it up. Now, word of warning, this stuff is combustible. So if you're doing this, either let these dry out, or just be aware that if you hit this with a lighter to shrink that shrink tubing, it just kind of, it doesn't burst into flames, but all of a sudden there'll be a flame over here on the thing, and you just blow it out. It's not like it's going to erupt in some vicious volcano of fire. Just be aware of it. But these I had made, and they were just too short. So I had to order some more stuff. Got the neon, got the hooks, made some straps, and all they do is clip right to the bottom edge of the trailer, to the frame itself. Now, I know there's a lot of guys out there like Weston Sharpies who have designed super, super scale detailed things with ratcheting strap hooks and everything. Yeah, they're good. I may invest something into that later. Right now, I just want to keep the trailer as cheap as possible, and focus on the truck. The trailer, I can add stuff to it as we go down the road, but I just wanted to try to keep some sort of budget on this. These are just branches off of a spruce tree we have out here. They've been dead for quite a while, so I didn't have to worry about sap dripping out of them and stuff like that. So I just collected up a bunch of dead branches, cut them to lengths, and they're scale, 12, 16 foot logs on here. Now, doing this does add a lot of weight. This thing weighs 15, 17 pounds now. So if you're going to do something like this, I suggest putting, something underneath the rear tires. The legs will hold the weight, no problem. But over time, those tires will start to buckle. Even though these are very stiff wall tires, it's just a lot of weight to be holding up. Other than that, it's just flat black spray painted on all this, and then the decking, and then I just matte cleared everything, airbrushed on some dirt, rust, grime, funk, road spray, and flat cleared over it all again. Now I did flat clear the wheels so they're not bright chrome, but I didn't really weather the wheels on this one. You'll see I did a little bit more on the truck. But overall, that's what it looks like from the rear. But overall, a really, really cool trailer to go with the cool truck you're getting ready to see. Here is the truck. Now, I did not want to go flashy and show truck looking. I didn't want to try to copy something one-to-one. I didn't want to do a movie theme. I wanted to do something familiar, I guess. So I will throw a quick story in here, try to make it quick. We used to live about 20, 30 minutes away, and the road we lived on, there was an older gentleman that lived at the end of the road, and he had a really, really, really nice truck. Had a long flatbed trailer, spread axles on the back, and he used to be a lifelong trucker, but as he got older, he kind of partially retired and had a little small engine repair shop there. So that's where I met John. I talked to John all the time, went up there, hung out with him. John was a good old boy. He made fruit wine in his garage. So, you know, you never know which you'd go up there. He'd be brewing a batch of banana wine or strawberry wine or blueberry wine or blackberry wine or something. He always had something cooking in there. And by wine, I kind of want to say it's like moonshine-ish. Technically, it was a wine, but man, it still had a kick. Anyway, every now and then, somebody would bring over their truck, and John would help them fix it. You know, he'd been working at his own trucks for decades, so he knew his way around the truck really, really well and didn't mind, you know, helping out and getting some stuff done that would have cost a whole lot of money if he had to take it somewhere like a professional diesel mechanic type scenario. Well, he had a truck very similar to this. It was a very, very old green cab over, very tired, you know, a 1,000,000 mile plus truck. And it had served its duty from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s into the 2000s. And he was using it to pull log trucks, log trailers back and forth from site to processing. So this is very similar to his truck. Not dead on, you know, that was 15 years ago. I remember that truck. So some things are a little bit different. I do think he had some sort of painted graphics on there, but it was basically like a homemade John Deere green paint job. So the back panel I did like on the Grand Hauler. I put Addam's Playground on there. Well, I didn't want to do that on this, but as a tribute to my constant ADHD behaviors, I went with ADHD trucking. And it also has it on the door here. Now, to match the other truck, his door wore out. So he had replaced it with one he got off of a junkyard somewhere, but it was a burgundy door. And he had to spray paint a big square over the lettering and block out, you know, what the other trucking company was. And then he went to like Home Depot and got some stencils and stenciled in the name of his trucking company on the side of it. So this has a much rougher stenciled look to the paint job on that. But overall, we just kind of toyed with it, messed with it. So some of the parts are chrome. So all of this up here is chrome. This is painted. This is chrome. This is chrome. The side lights are chrome. The stacks are still chromed, but a lot of it has been painted or misted with the flat clear. All of these were taken off, stripped of chrome, painted the aluminum, because after so many years, you kind of stop worrying about polishing the chrome. If your truck is always dirty, it's always, you know, the aluminum's always tarnished, you know, you just kind of give up on it. You know, you might polish the stack protectors and the stacks and, you know, maybe the stuff you can reach easily, but the rest of it, you're not going to sit there and polish your tanks all the time and all this stuff. It's a very, very old work truck. So we stripped all that to dull those down and then flat cleared them. And then I just went crazy with the dirt, the dust and stuff, because, you know, hauling logs, everything gets dirty. You're going down dirt roads, dirt trails to get back into the woods to pick up these logs. I'll get, you know, you guys will see up close pictures, but there's actually, you know, where the tires would have flung a little bit of mud and dirt and stuff back up onto the back panel. Just overall grunged it up. The wheels, did the flat clear on those, misted on a little bit of black speckling, a little bit of brown and tans and rust speckling, just to make them look, you know, road grungy. Now the tires I didn't do anything to. I do need to find some like weathering powder and kind of rub the tires down, because the tires look brand new on a dirty old truck. So I do need to do that. I just have not gone back out to the hobby shop to get some weathering powder to do that. And again, you guys are going to see up close pictures of this at the end. But I want to get the lights, I want to get the truck going so you guys can see the lights, hear the sounds, all that. Before I start it up, you know, that's what the back of the truck looks like. Now that we've got the back cab on. And I forgot I still had the tape on the window. Sorry about that. I'm so professional. Yeah, I forgot that I had stuck the windshield wipers on the other day with some E6000. Put the tape on there to keep it from falling off. Alright, so from the sticks, we can turn on the cab lights, the headlights, and the headlights I use like the warm LEDs, and then for the actual high beams I used a brighter LED. So I can control all that with the stick, and the truck doesn't have to be running and all that stuff. Basically, once you plug it up, the MSM is on and you can start controlling things. But a quick touch of the stick and truck fires up. Now, if you guys didn't notice, I'll try to do it again up close, but if the lights are on and you start the truck up, the lights kind of do a flicker effect to show that there's a drain on it. Now, one thing I did notice, somehow when I put the cab back on for the last time, that turn signal works. This turn signal doesn't. So my left turn signal is not working for some reason. And it's just this cab one. The rear is actually working. So let me turn it around. So right now nothing is on. So when it's sitting still or you let off the gas, the brake lights come on. Now I put it in reverse. You'll see that the four ways come on, and I actually put reverse lights up here. I was going to put them down here in the bumper, but we've got all these little slots up here, and I just figured, you know, why not? But it has other sounds as well. So you have a regular horn, which I don't know why this is included, but sounds like a Volkswagen. Then you have the trucker horn. And then you have a few extra horns, which are just hilarious. And then with that other switch, you can also turn your four ways on and back off. So basically you have, let me let this thing quiet down for a second. After 30 seconds, it shuts the motor sound down. There we go. So to control the lights is your right stick. To control those extra horns and your four ways, I've got on this little rotation knob. And the way it works is a short push turns those on and off. So a short push up turns those on and off. Now there's another set of lights I could control by pushing up with a long pull. So it's like under a second and then over 3 seconds. So short turns those on and off, and then long would turn another one on and off. I didn't really need any other lights on here at the moment, so I left that one open. Now for the high beams, that's a down long hold, and for the headlights, it's a short hold. So again, long turns the high beams on, short turns the headlights, short turns that back on, and then you can do the little funny horns at any point. And then just to get the truck started again, you just bump the throttle and it will start back up. When you're playing with it, you know, you want it to run extra long, but when you're trying to record a video, you just want it to shut up. So building the truck, super fun. And I think pretty much anybody can build the truck. It just takes time. The best way I could put it is you're building almost 3 full kits at one time while building this. You know, when you look at the hardware bags and the amount of parts and pieces and stuff you have to put together, there is a lot of stuff going on in this truck. None of it is hard. It just takes time. Now, mine took extra time because I went through and did a whole lot more uglying it up. If I had just done box art, you know, I wouldn't have had to strip any of the chrome. Everything would have stayed bright and shiny and pretty. A couple coats of the yellow, throw some decals on, put the interior in, and it would have been done. But you know, me, I can't do anything simple. So I wanted that old tired truck. So I first painted the cab with a red oxide primer. Took 1500 grit, sanded it down in some spots to get rid of any little bumps and lumps in it. Shut up. Then I painted it with racing green, and that was way too dark. So I picked up another can of green. I can't remember what it was. I'll put it here. And that turned out a little bit better. It still looked very John Deere looking, but I was fairly confident once I put the flat over it, it would look good. So once I had kind of all three colors, I started sanding through the color. So on the roof, you'll see it better in the up close pictures, but on the roof there's some, you know, faded spots in there along the sides, you know, just to make it look like it's been sitting out in the sun, weathering for decades. And again, the airbrushing and all that stuff was a complete extra step. You know, I had to get the whole frame done and then put flat clear over it. So the airbrush paints, they're just hobby acrylic paints, would be able to have something to bite and stick to. Spray, you know, a dark mud color on there, and then a light mud color, and a little bit of rust color, and then come back with some black and have some speckles in it. And then once that was all done, seal it again. And then the same thing with the cab. I had to wait until, you know, the interior was done, the driver figure was fit, I could get the cab on to where it was supposed to be, bolt the cab on, take it back out to the garage, and then spray on its weathering, so the dirt and stuff coming up the back, you know, the dirt and stuff on the stacks. There's actually a little bit of black around the tips of the pipes. You know, there's just a lot of little tiny little things that happened that just ate up a bunch of time. And then once all that was done, spray the clear back over it, trying not to clear over top of lenses and stuff like that. But I loved every minute of it. I'm not complaining at all. I'm just trying to explain how much time and effort it gets to making something look ugly, beautifully ugly. One thing I may do in the future is get rid of this little plate and the manual lever. Again, trying to keep things on budget. And honestly, right now, I don't have another channel on my receiver to run that. So for right now, this is staying manual. I would like to upgrade that later on, maybe figure out some way of sharing a channel just to, you know, bump that to unhook it. I don't know. We'll have to see. There's the whole S-bus thing you can do with this. I'm not that smart, never tried. Shut up. But yeah, again, I can put the infrared transmitter up here, put the infrared the catch in the trailer, put the wireless lights on there, and then everything the truck does, the turn signals, the left turn signal turns on, the left turn signal turns on the trailer, and, you know, reverse lights, brake lights, all that stuff. And we could put, you know, lights down the side of that, or, you know, on the ends of the trailer. Oh, that's another thing I had to do. On the ends of those tubes, the bottom parts of the trailer, I didn't want to be able to see through that as a pipe. So I designed something in 3D CAD. Went on Tinkercad, made up some little 10 millimeter caps to go over the ends of those pipes. So I could put those, just spray them flat black like the rest of the trailer. They just kind of a press fit. They popped right in there. One or two I had to super glue in, but the rest of them are press fit. So I can pop back out, and we could modify this with a hole in the middle and put LEDs down those four things, put a red one in the back and 3 yellows down the sides, something like that. You know, sky's the limit. Just the budget's not. So again, the truck is where most of the time and effort went into, and then the trailer was kind of secondary. I'm going to jump back in here real quick. I don't know where this is going to end up in the video, but I had some questions on the build and the electronics and all that stuff. So I just want to cover that real quick. I just kind of winged it on the first round. And then I'm sitting there thinking, oh yeah, Mark asked about this and somebody else asked about that. So real quick, I'm going to jump back in and answer kind of some of those questions real quick. So Mark from RCU in the Shed wanted to know, can you build the truck and then come back in and put all the lights and the sound and all that stuff to it. You 100% can. Now, I only have built 2 trucks, the Grand Hauler and the Globe Liner. The Grand Hauler has much more room in it to put electronics. You've got a longer cab, the speaker is up here and the grill in the front end area to where everything lives in this back half of this cab. Now, I also want to say the divider wall and the center console from Bob over at Hobby Concepts works absolutely perfect. It gives you something to mount all your electronics to, and when you look through the windows, which are unfortunately too darkly tinted to really see in there super well, you can't see any electronics. Everything is mounted behind that wall, and then you have the center console in there, so you don't have your motor sticking up in the middle of the cab. So that does clean it up. Now, as far as putting in the lights and stuff, you may want to run some of your lights first. LEDs are dirt cheap. You can buy the LEDs with the resistors already in line, 3mm and the bigger ones, and 3mm, I think 5mm. But you can pick some of those up and put them in place for like your cab lights and your turn signal and all that stuff. You don't have to wire them up. Just put them in there, tape them all up to the roof, and just leave them. If you never get around to doing it, you're out $7-8 for a pile of LEDs that you can use on other projects as well. But I would say maybe you would want to go ahead and do that on some of the tougher wiring. But like the headlights, the bumper lights here, especially the tail lights, all that can be done later on easily, especially the tail lights. There's a couple screws here, pop that off. There's 2 little protectors or covers that go on there. You unscrew that, and you're right there at your little LED holes for the lights. And then all you have to do is just get your wires long enough to run up to the cab. I use this split wire loom stuff, so it's just a spiral wrap. So you just get your wires started in it, and you can wrap quickly around the wire, and then say if you have the servo for the disconnect, you can wrap it to say this point, and then grab those servo leads and wrap that all the way up, and then slide everything in, and everything just comes up inside the cab. So wiring, 99% of it, I'm pretty sure you can get away with not doing anything, coming back in later and adding everything to it. Like I said, the one thing I would suggest is maybe put in like the roof lights. Like these turn signal lights are kind of a pain in the butt to get in, but all you do is just pop this off, and it's not terrible. But maybe invest in some amber 3mm bulbs for here, and you're $5-6 for a package of those. Get those put in so you don't have to take all these lights back off. It's not that big of a deal, but they're already in there. You don't have to worry about it. Now, depending on what light and sound controller you're using, I've used the MFC from Tamiya. That one works well. You're just limited to what sounds and everything is on there. The biggest problem is you're very limited to how many lights you can add. So if you have extra lights you want to run, you're going to have to run those off of extra channels on your radio. The other thing with the MFC is it's antiquated. They built that thing decades ago and have never changed it. So it's just a generic ESC and a generic light controller and the sounds. Now, the light controller is the weak point. You just cannot add extra lights in line to a degree. You can add 1 or 2, they'll dim a little bit, but you're running very low voltage on there, and it just can't handle the load of daisy chaining a bunch of lights in place. Now you can, like I said, add them to other channels on your radio and control them with the radio, but it's not quite the same as using them with the light and sound controller. The MSM that I have in here, you can add as many lights on there as you want. Now, so like if I had one of those fancy front bumpers with 14 LEDs in here, and then I had side lights on my steps and stuff like that, and I wanted all that on one control, say my long throw up on the controller, I could light probably 30 or 40 different LEDs just with that one control. Everything's on, underglow and all that stuff. So you have a bit more options to do stuff with that. And Bob over at Hobby Concepts goes through the MSM and the SFR, yeah, SFR1, in great detail, shows you how to program it, all that stuff. My next truck, eventually I will probably get a next truck, will probably have that SFR board in there. Not necessarily for the speed control. I love the 1080 in this. Super, super smooth, low end control, and I'm never going to overwork it. It's an 80 amp brush speed control. I'm going to burn up the motor probably before I harm the ESC. But anyway, I like the 1080. You're probably going to take a little bit of hit on power from going to the SFR. I'm not sure what that's rated for, but Bob loves them, so I don't think you're going to have any issues. But with that one, you can program sounds in it. So like this one came with the cool Dixie horn and the Mexican horn and all that stuff. It's fun, but you can actually put music to that other one. So I can turn a knob on there and it'll play, whatever song I want to on it. All different types of air horns and brake sounds, and it's just a million different ways you can customize your truck. And with the SFR, you can actually tune those lights. So I think there's multiple settings in there, so you can have just a little bit of flicker, or you can have like a delayed start where it like cranks over and stops, and then it cranks over again, and then it finally fires up and the lights really dim, so you can tell it's taking a lot of draw to start that big motor up. It's a really, really cool unit. I just didn't want to spend that much money on it right now, and I wanted to get this, see how this worked. Now, people asked, how is the wiring? Because I did say that the wiring is tedious, and took me a long time. I hate wiring. I loathe it. It's just not what I enjoy about the hobby at all. I don't like doing lights. I don't like doing wiring. But a truck like this, you kind of really want the lights and the sounds and all that stuff. So it's a necessary evil. The lights, while not terrible, it is tedious. You're working with really tiny wire. You're working with, LEDs with pre-wired lights on it. So you're getting from the bumper to here. And then you have to figure out how much wire you need to go from here to here, and you tack that on. So you're running all these little thin wires and trying to keep track of everything. Now, the cool thing with the MSM is you can bundle all of your positives together. So like all back here, I've got all the positive leads bundled to one, and I have one positive wire going up to the chassis. You can do that because the way the MSM works is it's a negative switched, which is exactly opposite of any other car, truck, tractor, vehicle I've ever owned. It's not like working on big scale stuff. It's been converted down, and they do negative switching instead of positive switching. So you bundle all your positives, run that up, and then you have one wire coming back to operate the brake lights. You have one wire coming back to operate your left turn signal. You have one coming back to operate your right turn signal. And then there's another one coming up here to do the reverse lights. So that's pretty much the back of the truck. You have 5 wires coming from the back of the truck that you got to snake up through here. And I put it in a spiral wrap just to make sure it's all hidden. And it kind of looks like, industrial. Now, the problem I had, and the reason I was saying I was getting flustered, because my brain is wired negative ground, and then you switch everything on the positives. This was exactly opposite. So connect all the positives together and switch everything that's on negatives. And that was a fight up here, because I would solder something up and then I'm like, no, wait, hold on a second. And I'd have to stop and think and be like, no, I need to bundle the positives and then connect and it was a task. Just because I'm so used to doing it the other way. Now, if you're not used to wiring stuff up, then it's probably no big deal. Just follow the instructions. Now, the instruction manual in here is very, very good. It gives you, like, this is the model number 1 truck. So I don't want to get too in the weeds about it, but on the receiver, you've got channels 1, like I've got a 6-channel receiver in here. So I got channels 1 through 6. Now, channel versus what the controller uses two different things. So you have a prop 1, prop 2, prop 3, prop 4, prop 5, prop 6. So like prop 4, there's like 4 different things I can control with this. Prop 6, there's 4 different things I can control with up and down over here. So you just have to remember what's going on. So you have those to plug back and forth, and then you have your assignments. So there's 8 channels of assignments. So 1 through 4 are your lights that I'm controlling with this stick. And then 1 is for your left indicator, right indicator, brake, reverse. So 5, 6, and 7 are pre-assigned. So the way this comes is it has a ribbon cable coming off of it, and they have a really good wiring diagram back here that shows everything, your inputs from radio to the controller to the speed control, whatever, and then all your other inputs. Then you have all your outputs, and they label them both with color, so that's nice. So you can remember, okay, yellow is, or say green, that's output 5. Output 5, I think, was right turn. Whatever it is. So you can remember by color, you can remember by number, because you got output 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and brown, red, orange, green, yellow, blue, purple, gray. And then you have the last 2 on there are white and black. Those are both positive connections. So again, you're sharing positives across this whole truck. So the way I have it wired is I have 1 that's running the back half of the truck, and then 1 that's powering the entirety of the cab of the truck. Like I said, it gets very complex, but it's not hard. Just take your time, go through the manual, follow the manual. If you have questions, stop, look back up. I've had to redo once or twice different things. It sounds ridiculously hard. It's not. But it's not something you're gonna rush through in a weekend. So I think that kind of covered, the topics of can I put lighting in and sound in later? Yes, 100% you can. Now on the Euro trucks, the Scanias and all that stuff, they have a lot more complex bodies and body panels. So some of those, I know there's a couple that have like big upper cab fairings on them and stuff like that have lights in the top, and then you have lights down below, and then some of them are just lit up like Christmas trees. So some of those, again, you may want to go ahead, look in the instructions, and go ahead and pre-wire some of the LEDs in there. Now you don't have to go through stages. If it's up in here and you need to put 4 lights in there, put those 4 lights in there, tie the negative, tie the positives, put 6, 8 inches of wire on there, tuck it up in top. You may never put lights in it, but they're there if you want to. And again, just a future time saving step is so you don't have to take the entirety of the truck apart. Throw some Gorilla Tape in there to hold those wires up onto the ceiling. You'll be good to go. And as far as the differences in the MSM and the MFCs and the SFRs, there's differences, but, not a terrible lot. The MFC is great. It is expensive. If you can find one from like Japan or somewhere cheap, pick it up. But otherwise, I would probably recommend going to Bob at Hobby Concepts, getting a Beier unit, sorry. And if you're in the UK, they should be, or if you're in the UK, should be fairly easy to get over there. If you're in Germany, that's where they're made. You should be able to get them all day, every day, probably pretty cheap. But anyway, let's cut back to the video. I've rambled enough about those two, but I just wanted to get those questions answered. So from end of trailer to front of truck, we're almost 40 inches long. We're 10.5 inches tall there. 13 to the top of the antenna, and the whole truck is roughly 8 inches wide. Yeah, so it is a big boy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna carry all this monstrosity out, go outside, take some pictures of it. Now I'm not gonna run it around right now. I'm just probably gonna take it out to a parking lot for its first run, just to make sure everything's working right and I can hear everything well. Out there rattling around on the gravel and stuff, I'm not gonna be able to hear everything perfectly, so I do want to be able to listen to it just to make sure that I don't hear any strange noises coming from it for the first run. After that, this thing is set up to be able to run around out in the grass, out in the dirt, within reason. It's a semi truck. It's not going to be I'm not going to take it out on a racetrack, but it is going to be something I would take off road. The Grand Hauler, not going to happen. That's a in the basement, in the garage, out in the parking lot truck. Not going to be in the dirt. This one, I don't mind if it gets a little dirt on there. It's just going to add to the character. The other thing I was thinking about doing was making a end cap for the trailer. Now, I originally was thinking about doing it, but I was working with aluminum and I had aluminum in my head. But I have bought a bunch of rectangular tubing, round stock, and square tubing from the hobby shop the other day, and some diamond plate to maybe make up a end cap here and get it painted up. Normally they're not like a solid wall. Normally they're like a slatted, almost like a gate looking type of rack. But it just depends on the trailers you look at. Some trailers don't have a stop on there. You know, it's kind of like a suicide trailer. If the log goes forward, the log goes forward. Other ones do have the stops on them. So I do think I want to put a stop on here just to give it something, because there's so much room in between the truck and the trailer. Now, obviously, I can shift the logs up a little bit more, but I kind of wanted to, you know, keep them somewhat. There we go. Just trying to keep it to where it looks, you know, like something you would see going down the road. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end it off with the pictures. And again, we'll have a separate running video of it once I get it out to a parking lot and can drive it around. Who knows? I may take the Grand Hauler out. I don't know. Actually, for the Grand Hauler, I have to check, because I don't remember if I changed the servo out in that or not. I want to say I did, but I can't remember if I did or not. Who knows? We may take both of them out. We'll definitely get this one out at some time fairly soon. Can't promise you when, but I will. So enjoyed the up-close pictures. Appreciate you guys' patience with me getting this done. You know, normally 3, almost 4 weeks isn't normal. Be quiet. But again, this one just took a lot of time, effort, and, you know, I could only do so much here when I had to stop because I had something else to do over here, or I had to do wiring or anything like that. And wiring, if you're not good at soldering, might not be the best kit for you. There's a lot of soldering involved, connecting and reconnecting and disconnecting and reconnecting wires to get everything functional all around. But again, it's not terrible. It's just there's a lot. Anyway, guys, if you guys have any additional questions, comments, leave them down below. I'll be more than happy to answer anything. If we get a lot of comments or questions about the same thing, then maybe I'll put out a video specifically for that. Anyway, guys, until next time, everybody be happy, be healthy, be safe, and everybody take care.